The warmth of his hand lingered on my lower back, a familiar pressure that sent a shiver down my spine even now. Being this close to Lucas, the undeniable presence of him beside me felt both right and utterly wrong. I hadn't anticipated this kind of entertainment at his rehearsal dinner. The voice that broke the comfortable silence was smooth, unfamiliar, and came from just behind us. I felt their presence before I even saw them, a subtle shift in the air, but I didn't pull away from Lucas. I simply exhaled, turning my head just enough to acknowledge them with a slight nod before looking back at my almost fiancé. Then, with a subtle lift of my hand, I motioned them forward, wordless but certain. But let's rewind a bit, shall we? The mirror behind the bar caught my reflection. Dark eyes that held a storm of unspoken emotions, lips slightly parted with a nervous anticipation I couldn't quite mask, and a dress that did exactly what I'd intended it to do. It hugged my curves in all the right places, dipping just low enough to maybe, just maybe, make a man forget the vows he was about to take. Perfect. Somewhere in the back of my mind, a dangerous part of me knew the night had already begun the moment I decided to wear this dress. It wasn't long before his hands found my waist, pulling me gently until my back pressed against the cool wall. His breath ghosted over my throat, sending a wave of heat rolling through me, building a fire that threatened to consume me. The music was a distant thrum lost beneath the sound of his voice murmuring something about how beautiful I looked. His presence was slow at first, a gentle exploration. Then it became inevitable, a magnetic pull I couldn't resist. A glass slammed down on the bar nearby, the sharp sound jolting me back to reality. I swirled the last sip of my wine around in my glass, breathing deeply before setting it down. The ice had long melted, but the night hadn't even truly started, and already I felt like I was losing myself in a dangerous fantasy. 2 days. That's all the time he had left before another woman would have him, before I lost this chance forever. I didn't even need to glance across the room to know where he was. My fingertips skimmed the rim of my empty glass, slow and deliberate. He stood exactly as I knew he would, relaxed and effortlessly charming, laughing at something one of his groomsmen had said. His tie had been discarded long ago, the top buttons of his shirt undone, revealing a tantalizing glimpse of skin. One hand was wrapped loosely around his drink, the other raking through his dark hair as he talked. I knew that hand. I knew how it felt gripping my waist when we danced too close at college parties, how it had caught me before I stumbled on a night out, how it had gently pulled me out of the way of a crowded street fair. Innocent touches, until they weren't. I ran my tongue along my bottom lip, a nervous habit I hadn't quite outgrown, and shifted my hips just enough to feel the fabric of my dress tighten against my skin. Still nothing. He hadn't noticed me. Fine. If he wasn't going to look, I'd make sure he had no choice. I picked up my empty glass, taking slow, measured steps through the crowded room. The bass from the speakers vibrated through my chest, the bodies around me shifting and swaying. The heat of the room pressed against my skin, making the thin fabric of my dress feel almost non-existent. Someone murmured something low as I passed, fingers grazing my back, but I barely registered it. I wasn't here for them. I reached him just as he turned, and when his eyes finally landed on mine, I saw it. That flicker of something behind the easygoing smile, that familiar heat that always seemed to spark between us. I leaned in close enough for him to feel the warmth of my breath as my fingers lightly skimmed his wrist. "Ready for the wildest night of your life?" I murmured, my voice a low, husky whisper. He smirked, slow and amused, like he was waiting for the punchline. "Wildest night of my life?" His voice was smooth, teasing. "That's a bold promise, Ella." I tilted my head, a playful smile lingering on my lips as my finger traced the condensation on his glass. "I don't make promises, Lucas. I make guarantees." He chuckled, a low rumble in his chest that sent another shiver through me, but he stayed close. "Do you always talk like this, or is tonight special?" "Tonight is special," I replied, leaning in even closer, close enough for his expensive cologne to mingle with the scent of whiskey on his lips. "For you, at least." His eyes flickered, considering, a hint of something darker lurking beneath the surface. "And what does that make you, Ella?" "Trouble?" The word hung in the air between us, a silent dare. He let it sit for just a second too long before shaking his head slightly, a ghost of a smile playing on his lips. "You never used to flirt with me like this." "Maybe I never had a reason to," I countered, my gaze locked on his. "You had years, Lucas. Years, and you had every chance to stop me before I started." His jaw flexed slightly, a telltale sign of his inner turmoil. I pressed closer, my lips barely an inch from his ear. "Tell me you haven't thought about it." His hand, the one not holding his drink, twitched at his side. He still hadn't touched me, not really, but he hadn't stepped away either. "I shouldn't," he said quietly, his voice barely above a whisper. But he did. I kissed him, slow at first, teasing his lips with mine, then deepening the kiss, letting him know there was no turning back. His hesitation barely lasted a second before he kissed me back with a surprising intensity, his fingers pressing into my waist, gripping me like he should have done years ago. I let the kiss linger for just a moment more, savoring the taste of him, the feel of his lips on mine, before taking his wrist and leading him through the crowded room. A few voices called out behind us, a mix of laughter and cheering from his friends, but I barely heard them. I pushed open the door to what looked like a small storage room and tugged him inside. The door clicked shut behind us, plunging us into a dim, intimate darkness. Before I could even take another breath, he was on me, his hands firm on my hips, his body pressing me back until my legs met the edge of a dusty table. A shiver ran through me as I sank back against it, a nervous laugh spilling from my lips. "You planned this, didn't you?" His voice was low, a husky tease against my skin as he leaned over me, his hands now framing my face. "You're only figuring that out now?" I whispered back, my fingers already working at the buttons of his shirt. He smirked, a flash of white teeth in the dim light, but the way his chest rose and fell, slow and uneven, told me everything I needed to know. This was what I'd been waiting for. Years of tension, of stolen glances, of knowing we had always been just one step away from this. No more waiting. I pulled him closer, catching his mouth in another kiss, deeper this time, as my hand slid lower, finding the buckle of his belt. Beneath my touch, I felt the fabric of his pants shift, my fingers tracing the warm skin beneath. His breath hitched against my lips, a low groan escaping his throat. His hands were already at the straps of my dress, easing them down, bearing inch after inch of warm skin beneath his touch. I eased him back just enough to follow the lines of his body with my hands, drifting over his stomach, noting the way his muscles reacted beneath my fingertips. "Let me," I murmured, my voice light but deliberate. His fingers twitched at his sides, his thighs stiffening slightly as I moved. My breath skimmed over his skin, heat lingering between us with every slow, intentional touch. His breathing turned uneven, the weight of anticipation thick in the air. A quiet exhale slipped from him, his fingers tracing through my hair before his touch ghosted along my jaw, lifting my gaze to his. "Come here." His voice carried a quiet urgency, low but unhurried. I didn't hesitate. He guided me up, shifting me until I was leaning against the wall, his presence grounding me as everything else around us faded away. I leaned in, closing the space between us, letting the anticipation build with every heartbeat. His fingers pressed lightly at my waist, steadying me, keeping me close, like he had been waiting for this moment just as long as I had. And then I let the last of my hesitation slip away. A sharp breath left my lips as we fell into a rhythm, adjusting to each other with effortless ease, like this moment had always been waiting for us. His head tipped back slightly, his grip on me unwavering as we moved together, every shift sending something electric through me. It was better than I had ever imagined, the way we moved together, natural and unspoken, like we had always belonged here. Each moment surrounded me, the charge between us thickening with every breath. His fingers glided along my spine, guiding me closer, keeping us locked in the moment. I braced my hands against his chest, feeling the tension pull tight, drawing me deeper into the intoxicating sensation. "Didn't think we'd get a show tonight." A smooth, unfamiliar voice cut through the haze. We stilled. I felt them before I ever saw them, but I didn't stop. I simply exhaled, turning my head just enough to acknowledge them with a slight nod before looking back at Lucas. Then I kept going. Their presence thickened behind me, unspoken but undeniable, watching, waiting, anticipation thick in the air. I let it stretch, deliberate and drawn out. Then I lifted my hand, 2 fingers curling in a silent beckoning. No words, no hesitation, just an invitation. A pause, then another. Curiosity, I guessed. The first one moved then, stepping closer, and another followed. Heat closed in, their presence surrounding me. A touch, light at first, a hand grazing my hip, a breath warming my shoulder. I exhaled, steady and unfazed. Then bolder fingertips traced my arm, mapping the lines of my back, the shift in energy undeniable. Hesitation melted into certainty. A quiet murmur close to my ear, amused and knowing. Then fingers at my waist, testing, lingering. I let them. The soft slide of fabric, the whisper of movement as layers slipped away one by one. No rush, only slow, deliberate unraveling. I felt them take it in. The silence, the weighted glances, the anticipation thickening with every inch revealed. A firm palm at my back, grounding me. Another touch skimmed lower, exploring, lingering. Their warmth pressed in, the space between us vanishing with every shift, drawing them closer. The last piece of fabric slipped away. I was surrounded. The rhythm never wavered, not once. I was still at the center of it, still in control, my body moving with instinct, drawn deeper into the moment. Hands held my waist, grounding me, guiding me into something intense, something unspoken. But I wasn't alone anymore. A new touch, light at first, a barely there trace along my back, sent a slow shiver through me. Another followed, gliding over my arm, lingering at my thigh, a presence making itself known without words. I exhaled, steady, letting the warmth close in. The shift was subtle but undeniable. Anticipation thickened, curiosity lingering in the space between us, waiting to be answered. I let my hands move freely, exploring, discovering every brush of fingertips tracing unfamiliar paths, every movement met with quiet reactions, sharp inhales, slow exhales, a presence adjusting to my touch. I felt them, their hesitation, their interest, so I gave them more. My fingers moved deliberately, memorizing the heat beneath them, tracing over tension, pressing just enough to feel their silent response. A murmur. A quiet sound of approval. The space around us buzzed, charged, the moment stretching, deepening. Then another, kneeling at the edge of the table, so close I could feel the warmth of her presence hovering. I turned toward her, my breath skimming close, an unspoken understanding passing between us. She didn't hesitate. The moment unfolded naturally, the rhythm never breaking. Hands went into my hair, not pulling, just lingering, feeling, savoring every movement. I let myself sink into it, hands at my waist, lips at my shoulder, the weight of their presence wrapped around me, surrounding me from every side, keeping me in place, letting the moment take its course. The shift came effortlessly. 1 second I was leading, the next I was yielding, my body sinking into the sheet, drawn deeper into the heat, pressing in from all directions. There was no hesitation, no restraint. I surrendered fully, letting the rhythm guide me, pulled further into the moment with every touch, every unspoken invitation. Time blurred, one movement melting into the next, each shift sending a pulsing sensation through me. The air thickened, charged, filled with the sound of breath, sinking bodies aligning, everything moving in perfect rhythm. Every touch lingered, mapping out every reaction, every seamless and unhurried shift between us. The tension pulled tight, building, rising, drawing us all deeper, the moment stretching into something all-consuming. Then, everything unraveled. A slow, pulsing heat spread through me, overtaking everything, washing over me in waves. My breath caught as I sank into it, letting it carry me completely. The feeling didn't fade. It settled, wrapping around me, stretching the moment into something endless. I had what I wanted for so long, and so much more than I could have ever imagined. But let's be honest, if you had a friend like that, one who always seemed just a little too close, would you ever let her make a move? Or would you act first before it was too late? Have you ever had a friendship where the tension felt different, where one moment could have changed everything? Would you take the chance? Or would you walk away? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And before you go, don't forget to like this video and hit subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you're always the first to know when a new story drops. You won't want to miss what's coming next. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.